Welcome to your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. This is Decades. My name is Chris Rubio. I'll be your host. For those of you that have never watched this fantastic show, we're basically going to have 3 different conversations with 6 different people, all males, all going to be from a different generation, someone in their 60s, someone in their 50s, 40s, 30s, and even 20s. And we're going to talk about things that you normally wouldn't talk about. We're going to teach people around the world that it is okay to agree to disagree. There's a lot of people that help out with this show, and the main man, the corraller of everyone, the director, producer, editor, boom man, lighting expert. Give it up for Ed McAndrew, Sub 60. Ed, what is going on?
Mr. Rubio, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing tonight?
Just glad to be back having this show. It was, when we had those weeks off, it's not the same. Not being able to talk to you and see your lovely face.
I'll start sending you more videos.
What's that?
I'll start sending you more videos every day, just of me.
Oh, that's great. That's what we all need.
But you know what? We didn't film last week because of 4th of July, and it's almost we have this text group going, and it's almost like the guys get a little bit more fired up if we don't go weekly. It's almost like a nice release we need. So We're going to start off with the young guys first, representing our 20s. Charles Wallace Jr. out of Philly. We call him Chalice. He's a 2-time wiffle ball champion. He's got his boot off, but he's fighting through a sprained ankle, and he's really into AI blondes in bikinis. Chalice, what is going on?
Hey, guys. How are you? Missed everybody.
Fantastic, fantastic. Then we're going to go to another Philly resident, Joe Nolan. He's going to be representing our 30s. He's an entrepreneurial spirit, works in real estate, small business finance, a tech startup, community involvement, and runs 10Ks in war zones, and has some great shirts. What's up, Joe Nolan?
What's up, Rubio? Can I pay you $8 for you never to send me a video?
Now I'm sending you 2 a day. I'm like the Shawshank. I'm Andy Dufresne. I'm doubling it up. Next up, in our 50s, we've got originally from the Ukraine, grew up in the USSR, software developer who currently lives in Los Angeles, likes gadgets, good beer, and guns. Give it up for Alex Kris.
Hi, guys. Greetings from PRC.
And once again, do not adjust your volume. He does sound like Gru from Despicable Me. Our other 50s is an Idaho native, a cybersecurity consultant, enjoys the outdoors and getting away on the weekend. Give it up for Jim Gingrich.
Hey, hello to our 36,000 subscribers.
Fantastic. Last but not least, the last 2 60s we have Bill Geiser. He's an entrepreneur, wearable tech guru, phenomenal swimmer that lives in the free state of Florida. What is up, Bill Geiser?
Hey, man, missed you. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. And rounding it out, Jay Gaskill, also the 60s, Idaho native, Seahawks fan, retired district court judge, which allegedly makes him somewhat important. And he makes the best old-fashioned in the Northwest as long as it's before 8:24 p.m. What is up, Judge?
Good to see you. I haven't missed you at all, Rubio.
I'll see it a little bit too, Judge. All right, we're going to cover 3 topics, guys. We're going to talk about the censorship of free speech, Supreme Court and affirmative action, and someone had some tootskis in the White House. We're going to start with Supreme Court and the affirmative action. Basically, the Supreme Court shot down affirmative action. I think they went straight after University of North Carolina and Harvard to start, because it was coming out that if you were, I think, black or brown, and you were in the 40th percentile of your class, you were getting in. And if you were Asian or white, it was saying 97th, 98th, 99th, even 100th percentile, you were not being admitted. So they finally said, whoa, we got to stop this. And we've talked about this a little bit on the show before. Joe, since you took the order, what's your thoughts on this, my man?
I mean, it really is a continuation of the Supreme Court just being a really anti-democratic institution. I mean, we've been through 6 justices now that were appointed by someone that didn't win the popular vote. You got a number of ethical concerns between Harlan Crow donating hundreds of thousands of dollars that we know about to Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch not disclosing investments, Brett Kavanaugh having sexual assault claims. I'm just tired of the Supreme Court and these 9 law wizards in robes making these sweeping decisions that change American society. I think it's well past time for term limits and set number of appointments per year. You keep it at 9 and you give each of them 9-year terms, whatever, 18-year terms, and you just get 2 per presidency, then I think we could have a better system. But this is just, it's so dumb to me. Like, we don't need the Supreme Court to decide college admissions. I mean, the individual universities can make their own decisions. California got rid of affirmative action decades ago. They still have some of the most diverse universities in the country. I went to Rutgers for school. That was literally the most diverse school in the country. I loved it. I learned a ton because of it. I hope that just because you can, schools won't choose to just move forward with wealthy legacy guys, because that's how you continue intergenerational equity imbalances. And that whole point of giving people a chance and a leg up was to give the best and the brightest who maybe didn't have those connections a chance to get in.
Okay, number one, all good thoughts. Your thoughts, but they're good thoughts. I know we've been a little rusty because we haven't been wavered. Let's try to keep everything between 30 seconds and a minute. If you guys have a comment, I'm going to try to read your facial expressions. Jim, I'm going to come to you because you look like you have gas or you have something to say. But if you guys want to say something, just raise your hand. So go ahead, Jim.
I like Joe's points, but he doesn't point out any reason it's bad. He went on a tyrant about the Supreme Court, but there's something called the 14th Amendment that said no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That is affirmative action. That's making sure we're a meritocracy and that people get a chance. And the funny thing about this is, and Joe even called out that the Asians have been affected as much as whites. Well, they're a smaller minority than black people. So to me, I've never liked affirmative action. Nobody that I've ever been around cares about your color. It's always been about your GPA, sports, anything like that. To me, it promotes reverse discrimination. It reinforces those stereotypes. And if you're someone in the White House, they basically make black people sound like they need help to get into college, which has never been the case. So,
and go back to Joe real quick. Joe, you said you wanted the best and the brightest, but are you saying the best and the brightest overall, or just the best and the brightest this color or this person? Because that's where I think the rub becomes a little bit of an issue.
If we're all really upset that Harvard has 6% African Americans in enrollment right now, then again, like, I think we're just wasting time talking about things that aren't that huge a deal. I think the bigger problem is that 70% of people are legacies. Like, these elite institutions have always been built on the premise that the smartest get to mix with the richest, so that the richest get to go give money to the smartest and then get richer. The whole point of that was to give a leg up to people to get into that ecosystem and have a chance to create intergenerational wealth. Because just based off of the traditional metrics, someone who's in the suburbs of Atlanta might not stand out as much as someone in the suburbs of Connecticut.
I understand your point, but you didn't answer my question.
Because it's like not a good faith question, so I ignored it.
Okay. All right. Bill Geiser, you had your hand up. Then I'm going to go to Chalice. Then I'm going to come to the judge.
So, actually, I'm a little conflicted on this. I do agree with what Jim said, and I do agree that the Supreme Court got it right. I think, there's this issue of equal protection under the law and what Jim mentioned about the 14th Amendment. I think you can't really use race as a consideration in those decisions. But that said, I really do believe if you're a black kid growing up in a city, a big city, Chicago, Philly, LA, whatever, you are at a severe disadvantage. Unless you're like Jimmy Mackey, you can run a 4.3 in the 40. That's a different story. And so I am for affirmative action, but not at the college level. I'd much rather see us spend money on elementary schools and in early education and childcare, develop learning centers, give those kids school choice, give them vouchers. They're penalized because they live in the worst fucking zip code in America.
Yeah.
And public schools make you go to a school based on the zip code you're in. Give them a fighting chance. Let's spend some money on them. And by the time they're in college, if we've done it right, they'll be on an equal footing with everybody else.
Chalice?
Bill Geiser for busing. Let's go.
I love the decision. I'm very much against affirmative action. I think we should do away with the race boxes on college applications. I don't understand why that's something that we even need to disclose when we're applying for colleges. Do away with can you guys see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah.
I think we should do away with it. There's no need for it, in my opinion. I think it should be totally based on merit. And when everything's based on merit, let the chips fall where they may, and whoever's in is in, whoever's out is out. I don't think that we need to take race into consideration when it comes to who's getting into a school. We should take into consideration your test scores and things of that nature.
Judge, thoughts? You've had a good grin the whole time, and since you are a judge.
Well, first place, I think it's clear that this was purely a political decision by the Supreme Court following a string of political decisions. But I don't think it changes all that much. As to what Charles was saying, if you're going to base it on strictly on scores and tests, then you've got to give everybody an equal basis with tutors and private schools and prep courses for those tests, which blacks by and large don't have. I mean, I think
Neither did I.
That's your own fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. I'm not privileged and wealthy. Yeah.
But I mean, 9 states have already said they don't want affirmative action. This Supreme Court was supposed to be big on states' rights. Why isn't that a state issue as opposed to a federal issue? You've got 9 states already abolishing affirmative action in the past, from 1996 in California to 2020 in the great state of Idaho. Make it a states' right issue. That's what the Supreme Court's been big on. I don't think it changes anything. Schools are just going to say, well, we'll base it on socioeconomic basis then, and it's going to be the same result in the long run.
Well, Harvard even said, they said, we understand what the Supreme Court's doing, so our admission standards will be different. We're going to lean more now on the essay portion, where someone writes an essay and happens to put that, hey, I come from a poor black family, and then boom, it gets knocked up. But then on the essay issue, that one kid who got into Stanford or Harvard, and he wrote on 100 times on his essay, Black Lives Matter. That's literally his whole essay. Like that's, to me, that's just stupid. I mean, why would you let that be allowed in? I mean, that's just.
Do you think they should let legacies in, Rubio? Like if your essay just said, my grandfather's name is on a school building?
Well, no. But I was thinking what Chalice said about how there shouldn't be any boxes. You should have to enter John Smith. Everyone is John Smith or Muhammad Ali. And then, so you don't know who the legacy is. You're number 67897. Okay. And that you took these courses, you got these grades, you got this on the SAT or ACT. That's a whole separate story, because I think that's stupid. But then you just get in. And then after the fact of getting in, then they can say, oh, by the way, your name is the judge, or your name is Alex Kris. I mean, that an ideal world, that would be the best. Do we have that? No, because like Joe, I agree with you on this one. The money's always going to talk. Your dad happens to donate a library. The odds of you not getting in, or you'd have to be really bad. Alex, Kris, close us out on this one, or we may come back to it.
Well, I think I agree with Charles that it's a good thing that affirmative action got abolished. It has to be a level, field basically, and it doesn't only concern people with different skin color or where they came from. For example, people like me and my wife and our friends who came from a different country with not such a good English, and we were able to make it. And my wife, she went through college and she got her education, and she didn't have any advantages over somebody who grew up in this country. Okay, so, and that's what I think.
And take us to our first commercial, then we're going to come back, talk about this just a tad more.
Hello, my name's Ian Hill. And when I'm not training to be the oldest man to play NCAA Division I college football, I'm the CEO of NGBN TV. Our mission's pretty simple. Educate, equip, entertain, support, and inspire men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's a one-stop shop for all that a man in his middle ages needs to be his best. So once you come and join us, come and be a part of NGBN TV. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Decades, your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. We're also on LinkedIn. You can follow Decades Podcast. And, of course, YouTube. Make sure you keep subscribing and sharing. Make sure you guys follow us on social media as well. I wanted to bring up, Ed, I don't know if you got the email on time. There was a Justice Jackson.
I know where you're going.
I mean, this was pretty bad. I mean, he did, I think, a page rebuttal. Justice Jackson's race-infused world falls flat at each step. Race is not to blame for everything, good or bad, that happens. I mean, who was it? The Babylon Bee had a picture that basically said affirmative action hire is upset that affirmative action is upset or got upset. And I just thought it was all parodies overbearing. Like, it was just unbelievable. Joe, what's your thoughts on that?
I think the Ketanji Brown Jackson dissent is one of the strongest written in the last 40 years. She speaks out against the history our country has with racism, and it says that if you pretend like our history doesn't exist, then you're doomed to repeat it. Says that great, we've made progress, but we're nowhere close to what we're trying to achieve as a society. And if we ever want to live up to the ideals you said, Rubio, of having that true, black box of just true meritocracy, it's not going to happen until we break the current grip of the system.
From the lady who couldn't define what a woman was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just going off of what Joe said, and I'm not saying this in bad faith. I'm just genuinely asking because I'm 25 years old, and 25 years old, 23, 22 of those years, being sentient and kind of having a memory. I haven't seen any of this crazy racist country that I hear about all the time. I grew up in the inner city, and if anything, growing up in the inner city, I was the one who kind of got the side eye from people. I was the one who people would judge based on the color of my skin and would be surprised when I was good at basketball when we would go to the park. I'm being serious. Wow. I don't see this. And maybe in the past, before our time, maybe, sure, I'll concede you on that. But in this day and age, I'm not seeing it. And if there is any of that white privilege out there, this, that, and the other, I would love to get some of it. And I would love to know where I can go to get it.
Judge?
Well, it just kind of occurred to me. How about this scenario? The University of Montana requires a certain number of their football team to be from Montana. There's maybe 50 black people in Montana. So let's say a black player from Louisiana sues the University of Montana football team for racial discrimination because they're letting all these white kids from Montana on over him. Supreme Court uphold that?
I don't see the benefit in that regardless. I mean, but I know a lot of states do that. Like Louisiana does that for high school kids. If you go to in-state school for college, you get it free.
So is that not racial discrimination if you got a predominant black or white population?
No, that's just population. It is what it is. Nobody made it that way or disallowed people of color to join. It's just the population.
In a ghetto, you can only have people from that area come in, and that's fine if they're all black.
If that's the school rule, I mean, nobody's discriminating by doing that. They want to keep Montanans invested in Montana and their education. To turn it into a race thing, to me, is ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with the state wanting to promote its schools and its people and see those successes throughout the years.
You're thin line.
Charles, did you have your hand up or no?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead.
I think, going off of that, what the judge said, I mean, if we're just being honest, African Americans make up 13% of the country. It's a bit naive to think that you're going to have that 13% spread evenly throughout 50 states. So it's not discrimination to say, oh, well, a certain number of kids need to be from Montana. That's just like what James said, that's promoting the state. That's trying to keep the people in the state invested. We have HBCUs. We have these things where that's for black kids. That's for black kids. The Montana school, the football team, they want Montanans invested in that.
Go ahead, Judge.
So if 80% of your population is black around a university, should it be 80% black?
It doesn't have to be, but no one's saying that
Could it be?
Montana, the Montana, no one's saying that the school has to be white. They want players from Montana on the football team.
So if you want black players from the area you're at,
I mean, I don't know if you watch a lot of college football. Most of the teams are black.
Yeah, that's true.
they're better at football.
Are we going to have? Maybe we should have some affirmative action to make sure there's enough white running backs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey's pretty good.
Yeah.
Bill Geiser?
Well, I was just going to ask an honest question. How good is Montana in football?
Great.
Oh.
Phenomenal.
They're good for their size and their area. They have a difficult time recruiting due to the fact that it's a damn tundra from November 1st through March 1st. So you're not going to get a lot of Floridians or LA inner city kids to say, I want to go to Montana.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying USC.
So we're arguing like, what is the tallest skyscraper in Des Moines?
Yeah.
Probably. All right, let's switch gears here. There was a lawsuit filed by the Republican Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt and Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry in May, claimed White House officials colluded with or coerced big tech companies to suppress disfavored speakers' viewpoints and content on their platforms with disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation labels. Judge, since you're the legal guy here, what's your thought on this one? Basically, the Supreme Court, he wrote up this, whatever it's called, a file, whatever, basically saying, hey, government, stay out of social media. You can no longer tell Zuckerberg and Facebook, hey, if you see anything about Hunter Biden, do not post it. It's Russian disinformation. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. The government shouldn't be involved except in those cases where the First Amendment has been held not to apply. That's fraudulent information. That's you can't yell fire in a theater. You can't have obscenity, child pornography, any kind of those things. So I think the courts over the years have defined what can be done and what can't be done by the government. And as long as you follow those rules, I'm good with it.
Jim?
I find myself in awe. The judge and I are agreeing. I do think it's odd that the Biden administration already filed an appeal to unblock that. And this was all about them telling what they could post with COVID, what they could post about Trump and Biden. And so the fact that his administration is appealing that court ruling already shows that we're close to that. Not to, it's overused, but Orwellian society. I mean, it's ridiculous. They should keep their shit out of there unless, like the judge said, it has something to do with First Amendment stipulations, but they have no business meeting with Zuckerberg and Dorsey and at the time and whoever to decide what you could publish out there when it comes to politics. That is invasive, and that shit should never stand in America.
Well, and not only were they suppressed it to the point where you couldn't even post it, you couldn't even share it in a DM, a direct message, which that's just insane. Bill Geiser, we're going to come back to you right after this commercial from Sub 60 Ed.
Hi, my name is Harvey Laguerre, host of Men of the Prize, here on NGBN. On this show, Black men discuss our unique struggles, what we've gone through to become the men that we are today, and we do it in a safe space. So if you want to see Black men discussing our unique issues, give us a try. And if you want to tell us about your unique struggles, get on here and tell us all about it. Talking is the key. My name is Harvey, and you are the man. And you are the prize. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to NGBN.TV's favorite news show, your new favorite news show on the NGBN.TV network, Decades. We've got Jim Gingrich, Charles Wallace, Joe Nolan, Alex Kris, myself, Bill Geiser, and the judge. Bill Geiser, we were just talking about this. Go ahead.
So I'm in agreement with the judge's opinion in this preliminary injunction. You know, I've been on Twitter since Twitter started, and I can tell you that over the last 4+ years, the conservative voice was throttled down in a major way. And so I think this opinion, first of all, Judge, thank you. I think you're right. I think the government should stay out of these First Amendment things, unless someone's, yelling fire in a theater or something like that. they were trying to decide and define disinformation and misinformation. And if you remember, they tried to do that wacky, what was it? The governance of misinformation with that wacky Nino Jackowitz.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I mean, that was out of control. Fundamentally, this is a check and balance. This is the judiciary telling the executive branch, stay in your lane. Good job.
And I'm starting to think, has anyone else noticed? I think I know why James and the judge are in agreement all of a sudden. It looks like the judge has been to Jim's house. Is that a walker behind you, Jim?
It's a Kegel machine.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. Joe Nolan, go ahead.
I'll be honest. I was on vacation last week. I didn't really follow this one. I got no real opinion.
Okay. But basically, they were, like I was saying earlier, they were just saying that Supreme Court told them, or the guy said, get out of the faces, stop saying everything. Because, I mean, it was from Hunter Biden to El Trumpo to Joey B to,
COVID.
I think the Rona was the big one, where they were just, Joe Rogan came out and said he took ivermectin, and then the media machine came up and said ivermectin is a horse dewormer, blah blah blah. Well, that's like saying drinking water is a car coolant. Well, yeah, it is, but you can also drink water. Okay, ivermectin's won Nobel Peace Prizes and all that crap and done all that good stuff. Charles, do you have something to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any dissenting opinion from what anyone else said so far. I think the whole misinformation concept is it's to me it's unfair, because who are you to decide what constitutes misinformation? In this day and age, I think that we should be entitled in a free country who I want to follow and what voices I want amplified to me. That should be up to me, just like it should be up to everyone else on the panel. So to try and silence certain voices for what you consider to be misinformation, I don't think there's any place for that.
I think we all agreed. Alex, Chris, Brew, you agree as well?
Well, actually, I'm talking about one little story about Hunter Biden's laptop that got suppressed on Twitter. And many people, after the elections, they basically said, had they known about the story, they may not have voted for Joe Biden. Okay, so that was a big one. Okay, so it was basically New York Post was trying to post the story on Twitter, and it was basically suppressed, and it was never allowed before the elections.
Yeah. Go ahead, Judge.
I just like one caveat in First Amendment discussions, and that is the First Amendment starts out, Congress shall make no law abridging the following. So you got to keep that in mind when you're talking about First Amendment rights.
Okay. Speaking of Hunter Biden, there was an interesting something found at the White House, and this story bounced all around, where it was in a highly trafficked area, then it wasn't a traffic area, then it was in a private area. Basically, they found some white substance that they were a little concerned about, so they evacuated the White House, and it turns out, yes, it was, I guess, a legit bag of cocaine, as everyone starts rubbing their noses. Number one, wow. Number two, does anyone think this is the first time that cocaine's been in the White House? I would go with a hard no. But I love the fact of this one where it's just the media machine is turned on to where, oh, who knows who did it? Who knows who did it? You know, what happened here? What happened here? And I have to, I've been in the White House before. There's cameras everywhere. You have to be searched before you walk in. You got to log in. You got to log out. Someone help me here. Is there any way possible that they don't know who did this? Bill Geiser.
Well, I think that there is a possibility that they haven't fully investigated this yet, but they should. And I think they should for three different reasons. Number one is the White House is the symbol of the United States political leadership, and it's the center of our country's executive branch. And cocaine being in there that's kind of a breach of trust. You know, how in the hell did it get in there? So we're entitled to know that. And I think because there's a national security issue here that we've got to recognize. I mean, if we've got flaws in how people are checked before they go in, let's fix that problem. And bottom line is, hey, nobody's above the law. Somebody in the White House brought in an 8-ball. Let's get to the bottom of it and find out who it is.
Well, they either have to
and
know.
you know
or
what?
they're
It
the
looks to me too like this is a cover-up. That you know, and you don't have to maliciously do things to cover things up. The more obvious way of covering up is say, "Oh, look, there's a squirrel," and try to divert attention into some other areas. Eventually, we're going to find out. You know, there's going to be a filing in the Freedom of Information Act, which will probably come out during the presidential election. And my guess is we'll know then. It's going to be some months. But let's find out.
Well, like I just said, it's either they know who did it because there's 8 billion cameras, or the Secret Service is the worst Secret Service we've ever had. I mean, it's one or the other. It's either this is a really protected place or it's not.
Abe Lincoln would like a word.
Go ahead, Joe.
Abe Lincoln would like a word about the worst Secret Service ever.
You should answer that one. Gingrich.
That is very funny. I wouldn't have an opinion on if they should be able to find it or not, except for the fact one of my very close friends was in the Secret Service, and he said 9 days is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And if it was a visitor or a no-name, this would have been done. They would have carted them off. So they're trying to run something to hide this. There's just no way that they don't know who it is. He said it's impossible. You can't fart in there. There's sensors. It's ridiculous that they don't know who did it. I mean, that's a list of things. They can't find the 2.6 billion they lost or the January 6th videos. They're good at losing shit around there.
Well, and then I like the media spinning about like, okay, we can't say it's Hunter now. And then one person gets on and says, well, it was on the east-west wing or something like that, the special entrance where the vice president usually parks. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so they're going to put this on Kamala. Like, this is a thing she's going to get going out of here. Chalice, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think that I'm a betting man, and if I had to put my money on someone, I'm putting my money on Hunter. But to me, it's not shocking that they won't say who did. They won't say whose it is. We don't know whose it is. They know whose it is. It's if it's not Hunter Biden's, I will come on here and chug a bottle of hot sauce.
I think it's KJP's, man.
Yeah, probably, or Kamala's.
That's my view on it. I mean, it's Hunter Biden's. They've covered for him for much worse, so it's not surprising me that they're covering for him. But I mean, it's Hunter Biden's.
Bill Geiser.
I want to go back to this thing. You know, if you take a look at the history of these political catastrophes, go back to Richard Nixon. You know, it wasn't really the crime that got him. It was the cover-up that sunk him. Ditto with someone like Martha Stewart. And, I mean, you can think of case after case after case. Usually if someone fesses up for a crime, they actually have an opportunity for people tend to be a little bit more forgiving. Once they cover up, there's no forgiveness. It's, you know, that's it. Sink them, lock them up, get rid of them.
Is that the way it was when you're a courthouse judge?
And it's
we only had fentanyl in the courthouse. But I think it's interesting that everybody here in Donald Trump has solved this and the Secret Service hasn't. You know, I think we've got to give it a little bit of time. We all know there's drugs in the White House. Willie Nelson smoked pot on the roof and Snoop Dogg did in the bathroom. And it's not like this is a groundbreaking thing. So, and with all the problems we have in the world affairs, it just seems trivial to me.
I think people are thinking though it leads to a bigger thing. Like if they're allowing Tutsis in there, and then they show Hunter Biden do it, you know, looking like this when the fireworks are going off, and then you know you got Joey B. He can't even walk. I mean, it becomes a big issue. Joe, you had your hand up.
I just think this whole thing is much ado about nothing. I mean, we've already wasted more time talking about this as a group than it's worth. It's a small bag of cocaine that goes for what, $60? Like, who the fuck cares? Like, this is all confirmation bias and the media turning it into an outrage machine. Like, there's 6,000 visitors to the White House a day. There's hundreds of people that work there, lobbyists, staffers, Congress people. And you guys are all convinced that it's the vice president or the president's son who doesn't live there. Like, to me, it's just so ridiculous and just like a proof of like the other thing we always talk about, the broken media echo machine. Like, what's more likely? The president, who's been very vocal about how disappointed he is in his son and his drug and his relapses, is covering up for him when he knows he's made a mistake, or this is just being used to throw shade at someone like at a slow news period and just use it to manufacture outrage and sell more ads on dying news networks.
But I think it's one of those things, like if all of us met up one day and one of us smelled like salt water, I'm going to say it's Bill Geiser because the dude swims 6 miles a damn day in the ocean. I mean, if it looks like a duck and smells like a duck and talks like a duck, it's going to be Bill. It's one of those things. And you guys, this guy who's had his issues, and like we're saying, this is a very, very highly patrolled place.
If you think Hunter Biden's the only person who's ever done cocaine in the White House on any given day, you're insane.
No, I guarantee there's staffers in there doing tootskis right now. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here. I mean, like I already touched on, he's done a lot worse before. So I'm not saying that this is the biggest issue that we've ever talked about on this show or anything like that. But what I am saying is, for someone who has a drug problem, who's had a myriad of issues in the past, yeah, like you said, Rubio, I was going to say if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck before you said it. But that's the case. Like, we're not taking a far leap here. I don't think it's confirmation bias. Like, if there was AI blondes on the computer, everyone would say I did it, right?
For sure.
But like, come on, guys, let's be realistic here.
Jim, and then Bill.
I agree with Joe. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal. It's been in there forever, probably. But the fact that it's 9 days, the fact that they're turning it into, oh, it was here, it was there, the Bidens were there, they weren't there. The thing that gets me is all you have to do is go online or go to YouTube and look up what other countries think of us. So several weeks ago, we had a topless tranny dancing around. Now we got cocaine being found there. You know, they are laughing at us. And I can send anybody videos who wants to see it. The news networks, like legitimate news networks, Australia is one of them. They're broadcasting about what a joke this is. So again, yeah, it's a little bag of coke. But this is the next line of, hey, how stupid do we look around here? We have no respect from any other nation at this point.
Bill Geiser.
You know, I find it really ironic that the liberals are now saying, oh, this is a no big deal, blah, 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 blah. When Trump was in office, he just had to look sideways and they were condemning him. So don't be surprised that there's the shoes on the other foot and what's going on here. It's, you know, it's a good old fashioned game of payback, and they're getting paid back.
Joe Nolan.
Confirmation bias is a psychological phenomenon where individuals favor information that confirms their existing beliefs or values. They tend to seek out, interpret, focus, and remember information in a way that affirms their preconceptions, while simultaneously ignoring, dismissing, or undervaluing information that contradicts their beliefs. We're all guilty of it. To pretend we're not is just a lie about what it means to be a human.
Gru, and then Charles.
Both parties suffer from it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I believe, for example, if by now Secret Service or whoever would have released the name of the person or people who actually smuggled that cocaine into the White House, you know, it would be no issue to talk about, okay? And everything would basically be the end of it, okay? But since it's not, everybody's going to talk about it for weeks on end, okay?
Charles.
I'm not dismissing the concept of confirmation bias. I'm just saying, how is it confirmation bias to say, oh, there were drugs in the White House? Oh, there's a drug addict who's frequently at the White House? Got a good idea whose that might be.
Yeah.
Judge, let's end on you because we did a lot of judge talk tonight. What's your final thoughts?
I'm glad you guys aren't the jury because you're deciding the case without any of the facts.
Well, we can't see the facts. No one's
sharing the facts.
Give it some time. And as to James' comment about the other countries' media is making fun of us. We can go back through the Trump administration if you want to go through being made fun of by the other countries.
That's a yeah, but argument. I didn't argue that. I argued we're getting made fun of for this stuff right now.
And they always have been.
Guys, very, very good show. Little controversial, which I expected. Sub 60 Ed, you can fly on in. This is going to be a hard one for you, Ed. Who do you got?
It
as the
was
winner?
actually it was a hard one, but I have to give it. I had to look at all the facts. I had to look at the facts. I had to look at the evidence, which you guys were just talking about. Nobody's telling the whole story, and I had to give it to Joe Nolan for his Abe Lincoln. So
yeah, that was good.
Service comment.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Cheers to Joe Nolan.
Cheers.
Everyone, make sure you
Good
keep
job,
sharing
Joe.
us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and you guys are doing a great job. Remember, you can agree to disagree, have conversations like this with other people that you normally would not. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.